Springbok squad has been announced for the upcoming Nations Championship, folks, but what are the expectations? And what's Rassie doing that's a bit different from everybody else? Because I feel like he's taken a slightly different tact than many of the other coaches. We'll go through them pretty quick, and you guys can let us know your thoughts. My first impression of the squad is that it is first very large. 46 players is bigger than most of the other squads we've seen. The All Blacks and the Wallabies and like the Irish and whatnot, they're generally 30-something players. 36, 37, 38 players. But the Boks have gone really bigger with 46 players. And I feel like that is part of what Rassie is doing differently, because it allows him to keep the core of the squad available. The veterans, there's a bunch of World Cup winners from 2 different World Cups now. And it allows him to bring in some of the kind of less experienced guys. And when I said Rassie's doing something different, when he's bringing in less experienced guys, it's not just guys who are 19 or 20, but these are guys who haven't even really had a full season of professional rugby yet. The likes of Moyo and Norton in particular, done at under 20s level, but very, very green in terms of their professional rugby experience. Like, haven't really had a full URC season playing with men, basically fully grown adults, and testing themselves at that level. So to be from under 20s and essentially kind of directly with the Boks is a big old step, but it is something that Rassie is doing that's different. I like it in that you get a chance to get your hands on these players early. You can identify areas you would like them to work on early. You can get them all on the same page, basically, rather than kind of having to go through necessarily the middleman of the club coaches. You're able to develop the player you want them to, the way you want them to develop early on. And you get to train against world champion players. So in some areas, training against the Boks guys is going to be harder than some of the matches these guys will potentially play. So it's a good bit of depth building from Rassie in terms of getting the youngsters in. Like, some of these guys are young, like Yako Williams. I know he's had a few more professional games than some of the other youngsters, but 20 years old. Moyo's 20 years old, the number 10. Riley Norton's 20 years old. These guys, 2 of them, Moyo and Norton, played against the Barbars, so they already got a taste of rugby at this level-ish. And I wasn't a full test, but playing against a bunch of test players in Races Barbars. So they've already had that first look. And then you've got rewards for some of the other guys who have been, knocking on the door, playing for their clubs for a long time. Kalu Sadi and Ruben van Heerden in particular. I'm really chuffed for Sadi in particular, because it feels like he's finally coming good. Some guys just need a change of scenery to get to that next level, maybe for a prop, because he's 29. It's also a bit of an age thing that he's just finally coming good, because he looked like, even for a number of years with the Lions, it looked like he had the potential to be in the mix. But with Bordeaux now, he is finally at that level. So really, really pleased for him. And then you got Paul de Villiers, who's also kind of there as the middle of the road guy. He's a bit older than the 20-year-olds, but he's still a bit younger than the guys in their late 20s. So good reward for these guys, and a good chance for them to see what Springbok rugby is all about. And I would also, this is kind of on my wish list for the Springboks, and I'm assuming Rassie's going to do this as well, because like I mentioned, he's got the core of the squad. But there's a bunch of guys in this 46 who've been on the fringe of the Springboks. Maybe they've had a test here or a few minutes there, but they really lack kind of a full in the deep end run with the Springboks. So there are some guys I would really like to see get some minutes. The likes of a Cameron Honeycomb, Evan Roos. These guys are both so dynamic on the ball carry. I want these guys not just to get 5 or 10 minutes from the bench. I'm not trying to tell Rassie what to do. This is just my wish list. I want to see these guys absolutely in some action. Ben Jason Dixon, I know he gets compared to the Peter Steph du Toit role a lot, which is setting the bar very high. He kind of got a taste of international rugby and then fell off a little bit, but he can potentially fill the mold of that, big lock, loose forward, hybrid player, high work rate, getting around the paddock. And Kewan Horn, we saw him play 10 for the Boks against the Barbars. It'd be nice to see him start a test, or fullback or wing potentially. So these guys, Vincent Chituka as well. I'd like to see that guy get some minutes. There's a few guys kind of in that mold that I would like to see. But it's hard because the core of the squad is still very good. Like, if you're Elric Lowe. Like if we get into omissions, that's pretty tough. Like the guy's had a pretty good season for the Bulls, and he's not even in the squad. I guess you kind of had to go with Chituka or Lowe because they bring a lot of similar things to the table in terms of their position, in terms of what they do around the park. So it's tough when you've got Sia and Peter Steff and Jasper Wiese, Cameron Honeycomb, Evan Roos, Marco van Staden, Vincent Chituka. Someone's got to miss, right? And in this case, it was Elric Lowe. That was kind of unfortunate for him. Faf de Klerk's maybe also a little bit unlucky because he got a game from the bench for the Boks against the Barbars, but he's not in the squad. But it is a nice story to see the return of two former Boks in Herschel Yankees and Ambrose Papier in terms of those number 9s. Like Ambrose Papier's one I absolutely saw coming because he's been in exceptional form for the Bulls. You don't need to be a rocket scientist to see that he was playing in the kind of career best form. So his selection is absolutely merited. Hasn't played for the Boks for not quite 10 years, but it's been a very, very long time for Ambrose Papier. And Herschel Yankees, I haven't seen enough of the top 14 to know, but by all accounts, he's in pretty good form as well. So the Boks are, current management, quite happy to give guys a recall if they are, putting up their hands. But that does mean Faf does miss out. Elric Lowe misses out. Lakanyo Am, I know he played for the SAA team against Zimbabwe. He's missed out as well. So the omissions list is, I think, not that long. The injury list is unfortunate. Achias Neyman, long-term injury. Quaka Smith, like statistically kind of pound for pound, arguably best player in the world, especially from the bench. Long-term injury. Sasha Ngomazulu means there's a bit of not really a gap at 10, but geez, you'd love to have that guy playing because he is something special. It means Mani and Andre Pollard and potentially Moyo will have to steer the ship at 10. But I think overall, with the core of the squad being as experienced and successful as it has been, plus the introduction of some of the youngsters, the recall of a couple of guys in form, I think you'd be overall pretty happy with the squad. The biggest thing is going to be getting game time into these guys with 46 players and only England, Scotland, and Wales to play in the Nations Championship anyway. I know we've got the greatest rivalry on the horizon too, and the Argentinians, but yeah, getting these guys game time is really, really going to be the trickiest part. The age profile of the squad does come up quite a lot, and it's been brought down a little bit by these 20-year-olds and whatnot, but the Boks squad is still the oldest of all the ones I've seen named on average. And there's a bunch of guys like Sears 35, Moster's 35, Reinach's 36, the midfielders, Dale Ender's 34, Esterhuizen and Creel are 32. There's a number of players who are up there in years. Like the average profile, was it like 29, 30? It's just a bit older than some of the other squads. But Rassie has addressed this point directly by basically saying if the guys are good enough and they haven't either lost that power or, pace or whatever it is that gets them into the Springboks, then he's not going to stop picking them based on age. And that's a fair point. Like, I can remember back to 2015 Rugby World Cup, people were saying you shouldn't pick Richie McCaw and you shouldn't pick Dan Carter because they're too old. Well, those people were wrong. So if the guys are still putting in the work at a level which gets them in the side, I think that's fine. There's not like an arbitrary number which you need to pick on to say, now you can't play for the Springboks anymore. If you're good enough, age shouldn't be a factor. But that being said, there are a number of veterans who aren't in the squad. Like Mapimpi hasn't been in the Boks for a while. Bongi hasn't played any rugby. He's not in the squad. I wrote down someone else. Vincent Koch. There's a number of guys. Faf de Klerk at this point, not in the squad. So there has already been that rotation started. And you are seeing a bunch of guys who are at the lower end of the age profile being introduced. It is just a matter of finding the balance of you need to win all your games, but also find a chance to give more players a crack at test level. I say win all your games because my expectations for the Boks are that they absolutely must win all 3 tests. They got England first in Joburg. Remember, they're already coming off the Barbars' emphatic win. Rassie said they need to tighten up the defence, but it was first game of the season, so that's, it's fair. They scored 80 points, so you can't be too dissatisfied. But yeah, England and Joburg, maybe not as quite as spicy as it would have been if England hadn't had such a poor Six Nations, but I feel like Rassie's going to take that I feel like he's going to take that more serious of the 3 games. When I say serious, he's going to take them more seriously, but you know what I mean. Like, if I was to try, this is a hard thing to do, but guess at Rassie's intentions, I would say he goes slightly more conservative against England because he definitely wants to win that one. Then The Scots, maybe there's a little bit more rotation, but you still got to take the Scots very seriously. And then I would say the most experimental team goes up against the Welsh in Durban. But yeah, the aim will definitely be win all three and then get some game time into the fringe players, potentially into some of the youngsters. But like I said, even if some of these guys don't play, training against the Springboks week in, week out will inevitably make these guys better players no matter what happens in terms of the game minutes. But certainly there needs to be a bit of rotation amongst the squad. But yeah, the core is still very strong. It's just getting some game time into them. You guys let us know your thoughts. What do you reckon about the team? Where do you think, are they looking weak anywhere? Like I said, the only thing is the midfield is looking a bit older on the age profile. You got Moody in there as well as a utility. He's a bit younger, maybe not in the best form, but overall the squad is still looking very strong. I expect them to go 3 from 3. But yeah, you guys let us know your thoughts. Subscribe, take care, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. Ta-ra.